All right, everyone. Thank you for coming here tonight. We really appreciate you guys being willing to take time out of your week to be able to come here and spend time learning about the Santan Valley Incorporation effort and how this is going to impact our area. And so we just appreciate you guys coming out. This is a big week, so early ballots drop this week, and so those will start coming to your homes. And so this is a great place to be able to get information so you can be informed, so your neighbors can be informed on what this is. So my name is Tyler Hudgens. I'm the chair of the Incorporation Committee. Our organization is called STV INC, and we are a board that came together about 2.5 years ago to seek incorporation for this area. And what I'd like to just remind everyone, I'd love to open up with is we're normal people just like you. We all have families, we have spouses, we have kids, some of us have grandkids. We all have other jobs. This isn't our job. We don't make any money doing this. This is purely a volunteer effort to push this forward. And it costs a lot of time. It's cost a lot of us a lot of time. And so just appreciate you guys coming out. And we are neighbors together in Santan Valley. So I want to just introduce a couple of us tonight, a few of us tonight. We have two of our other board members here with us, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Adrian Litton. I've lived in Santan Valley for a little over 6 years now. Professionally, I'm a GIS consultant. I work for state highway departments, helping them decide how to best spend their money to improve the roads or improve transportation corridors. I've been a part of the Incorporation initiative almost since the beginning, since April 2023, when right after Tyler went and announced or told the Board of Supervisors that he wanted to incorporate and formed a committee to do so. The main things that I saw after moving here were that it's a great place, great community, but there are challenges with rapid population growth and not really sufficient infrastructure to sustain that. And we keep seeing the roads improve right in front of the developments, but then another development comes along and the roads improve there, tearing up the roads that were just improved. There's not a comprehensive development plan, there's not a general plan for this area, and there's nobody with the authority to create one because we are not a municipal government. So what I would like to see is planned growth for this area with decisions made by people who actually live here about how we're going to grow and how we're going to develop.
Thanks, Tyler. Buchanan Davis. My wife and I have lived in Santan Valley since 2009. We were first in Castlegate for a couple of years, and then now we're in Circle Cross Ranch area, raising our 4 kids here. And I professionally work for SRP, and I do a lot of government relations, community relations work there. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I decided I better step up and participate and help. I work with municipalities all day. I see the value. One of the things I point out is we have 100,000 people here, but we don't carry the political stick of 100,000 people because we don't have elected officials who can go to bat for us and to get some of the resources and the attention that we need. And so we fall behind in that regard. So we can get to questions later, and I can answer more about some of the reasons why I got involved, but that's a little bit about me.
And then we have Tony Smith here. You can introduce yourself and who you are. He's our special guest today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And if I can just move forward, that'd be great. I'd like to kind of get in contact with people. Tony Smith, I am a transplant from the Midwest. I was born in Indiana, raised my children in Illinois. In 1997, I moved out to work for Motorola, and I worked for Motorola for 10 years. And then in 2007, I decided I had an opportunity after being on the first Planning and Zoning Committee. The City of Maricopa Incorporated in October of 2003. We moved. My wife and I moved to Maricopa in July of 2003, so we've seen it all the growth. And in 2007, after being the chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee for the City of Maricopa, the opportunity came to be the mayor, and I thought, well, why not do that? My consulting business was not going to do very well at that point, and so I did. And what an experience that was. Here, a city of around, it only been in existence about 5 years, and it had about 38,000 people. But you know what happened in 2008, 2007, 2008, the Great Recession. And so, wow, we spent the first 2 years basically surviving and finding ways to keep our neighborhoods intact. We had people moving out and we had people moving in. It seemed like our population almost turned over about 3 times, it seemed like, in those first few years. But in my next 2 years, they were 2-year terms at the time, we took advantage of the recession and we built and prepared for the future. We basically bought property at a fire sale because the real estate prices had bottomed out. And so the earlier city councils were smart in that they didn't spend a lot of money. And so we had a lot of cash and we had property to buy. So we bought property for the city hall, a regional park, and many other facilities, fire stations, etc., at bargain prices. And so basically my last 2 years as the mayor, we positioned ourselves for growth because we knew it was coming. And then after the 2 years, or 2 terms as the mayor of the city, I decided the opportunity to be a board of supervisor. And at the time, Pinal County, it was growing rapidly, and we'd gone from, this was going to be the first time we went from 3 supervisors to what we have today is 5 supervisors representing 5 districts. That experience, again, I've used a lot of that, which I've learned at the City of Maricopa, but we handled a lot of the problems of not only District 4 of mine, which stretched from the City of Maricopa down to near Tucson, included around 9 communities, 2 Native American communities. It was a lot of diverse experiences. And then we worked together as a team in order to do the business of the county. Well, why do I say all this? It's because of Pinal County and communities like Santan Valley, the City of Maricopa, Coolidge, Eloy, we are on the fast track. In fact, I think it was 6 of the top 15 communities in the state are the highest growth communities in the state with population growth. Pinal County is growing at a rapid pace. It is growing percentage-wise faster than Maricopa County. Maricopa County, of course, has more population, but we're growing fast. So the people keep coming. We got a lot of available land, and we have now getting control of our water resources. So there's a lot of positive things that are happening. The last title that I have is after being and leading Pinal Partnership, which is the leading economic development organization for the county. I had a well-rounded view of the various cities, everything from Apache Junction to Queen Creek to Superior to Oracle, etc. So I have a really good understanding of the situations and the problems and the successes here of the county. But December 31st, I left Pinal Partnership, and I'm trying to really be good at retiring. And so I am full-time retirement, but I spend my time doing bucket list things, road trips, and I also hike the Arizona Trail. And the Arizona Trail goes from Utah to Mexico, and I've got a hike in the Pine area starting on Sunday. And with that, I will be close to 400 of the 800 miles. And I'm making my way towards Mexico. So it's my way of seeing the state in a very close way, and I also keep myself healthy by doing that. But I wanted to just now get on to the topic of incorporation and why I favor incorporation. I've learned through 12 years in public service that local control is better. You get to control your own destiny, and you have a greater voice in advocating the needs of your community. Local control, you have better access to a lot of the people that are making decisions affecting your community. I don't know how many times I've had discussions at the Ace Hardware, at the Fry's supermarket, and many other places. Because as a mayor, you're around town, and I continue to just do what I do. I'm a handyman, and I do-it-yourself, and so I go to the Ace Hardware, and of course you get to be very visible and seen, but that's a good thing because you have those intimate conversations. And city council members, they do the same thing. They get to have those conversations, ad hoc conversations, and get to explain and get to meet the people, and the people get to meet them. Opportunity to create your own identity. You know, I go around the state, and I know there's a lot of communities that are very interesting and unique. I think City of Maricopa is very unique because we're sandwiched between two Native American communities. We have the Gila River Indian community to the north, and then we've got the Ak-Chin Indian community to the south. You go to Sedona, that's very unique. You go to Flagstaff, you go to Bisbee. I think Santan Valley can create something special and unique also. And that's one thing I think you get to do as an incorporated city and not be under the direct control of the county. There are also many more opportunities for community involvement. And that's the one thing that I really enjoy is when I was mayor and council, we got to handpick and interview people who went on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We could create an arts committee, you could create a parks committee, and you get to know your neighbors, and you give them an opportunity to serve. And they also create bench strength because after being on one of those boards, committees, and commissions, they're pretty good, well-rounded people that are maybe going to be your next council member or your next mayor. So you get a lot of opportunity for citizen involvement. And when I was mayor, we had a lot of opportunity to take advantage of contracts. And when I started in 2008, we were just 5 years old, and we did not have a police force at the time. We just barely started a fire department because we had went from a fire district to a fire department, which was funded by a property tax for public safety. But the police department, we contracted with the sheriff's office for the first 5 years. And then we hired a police chief during my first or second year as mayor, and then an assistant police chief, and then we got to the point where we had a day shift, and then a second shift, and then finally we went 24/7 by the time of my term. But there's patience. You got to be patient as you're a new city, and you can't have everything right now. And that's one of my lessons learned. Control your own destiny. I think you get better control in a targeted economic development by people who know firsthand the needs of your community. if many of you have you live in these various communities, but you know what the city needs. Now, as a Board of Supervisor, I tried my best when it came to land use or zoning changes or site plan reviews in order to make the right decisions on your behalf. But I'm 100 miles away. And the same thing with some of the other supervisors. You have a very good supervisor in Mr. Supervisor Goodman, but he's just one person and the others are making decisions on your behalf. So you get a better opportunity to control your own destiny and have that. Via a new Santan Valley Planning Commission, you have an opportunity to determine land use. One of the first things that after incorporation, you will be tasked with creating your own general plan. And that's the tool that your new Planning and Zoning Committee would use in order to determine whether or not changes to your community fit the general plan that is voted on by the community. So you have a control of your own destiny, land use, and by doing that. Whereas now, you don't. And then you have the opportunity for more services and facilities. My experience as a county supervisor, I have a little community near Eloy, it's called Arizona City, great little community. But there are about 10, 12,000 people, and they were very underrepresented. In fact, when I first became supervisor in 2013, I went to the city and they said they had never seen a county supervisor. And what do you do? And so I had to introduce myself and start working, and we had probably about 100 town halls in order to find out what the community needed. But supervisors come and supervisors go. And since they had never seen a county supervisor, they were very, very underrepresented. And so that was an example of a community that I think that could have been incorporated at one point, but they've never taken that step also. And thus, they don't have parks, they don't have a lot of facilities that a city like the city of Maricopa has today. One of the things that kind of jumped out at me when I became mayor was when you get on city council or become mayor, all of a sudden people pay attention to you. You then get immediate access to your congressman, your senators, even the governor. And at 100,000 in population, if that's the number that you're incorporated at, you'll basically have the same political influence and social influence as Yuma. Yuma is just slightly over 100,000. And that's pretty significant when you think of the influence that Santan Valley can have. With a proactive mayor and city council, I think your voice is multiplied many, many times. When you're dealing with your state representatives, state senators, any of the political leaders at the state, the county, the federal level, your voice is multiplied because you have people who are involved in your committees, you have people who are just interested in the community, and your voices are multiplied. As I mentioned, I believe, and I've served as Supervisor Goodman, but he's one voice. You multiply your voice, your impact by having many, many people involved. So what does the next 5 years, if you are incorporated, look like? Well, I believe that the process is similar to the city of Maricopa. The Board of Supervisors would appoint local community members to the first city council until election is held. And since I was the second mayor, we had a previous mayor that was elected, but the county actually appointed the first mayor and council, and then 6 months later, then there was an election. Then the city council makes some critical hires. And you could contract for services. I think some of the best positions to have early on would be a city manager, a city clerk. In fact, our city clerk was our second hire in the city of Maricopa, and she's still there today. It's a key position. It's the one that kind of helps get all the city council members together and make sure you don't do things that are out of process. I think having a city attorney and a public works director. Now you can contract for a number of these positions. City attorney, we still contract for our city attorney. City managers, there's a lot of good ones out there that would do it on an interim basis. And so it's not so scary if you're thinking of well, where does our leadership come from? Well, there's people that are very experienced in being able to do that. And then you'd have the opportunity to create your first planning and zoning commission. And again, you determine what your land use is, and you determine whether or not there's any zoning changes. You determine whether or not the site plan works in this neighborhood or not. So there's a lot of control in regard to that. And then I think your first major community involvement, as mentioned, would be creating the mandatory general plan. That's the main land use tool that you would use, the Planning and Zoning Commission would use in order to make sure that whatever is being proposed for your community meets what you, the voters, chose that your community would look like in the structure and the land use. So one of the questions was, does the city of Maricopa regret being incorporated? And I thought all afternoon on that and on the way down here, and I can't come up with a single reason why the city, or that I've even heard that the city of Maricopa regrets or that people regret being incorporated. It's been 22 years now since incorporation, and we've come a long way. And I asked my wife, I said, is there any particular message? Because she had a conflict and she would like to have been here tonight to give her perspective. But she said, well, I do know that the overpass over the Union Pacific Railroad in our downtown area would not have ever happened if we would not have incorporated. We just would have had the singular voice, and we had multiple voices, and we worked with Corporation Commission and ADOT and many other partners in order to create an overpass that created a much safer environment. We had people get killed. We had high school, excuse me, I gotta take a drink of water. I don't get to talk this very often. But we had high school students that were cutting across a railroad track in order to get to high school and creating a very dangerous situation. And then finally, just what happened recently within the last 6 weeks, the city of Maricopa was successful in working with the Arizona Department of Transportation board in order to have widening of Highway 347 fully funded on the 5-year plan. Now, that would not have happened if we would not have been incorporated, because we had a lot of voices. People showed up at the ADOT meetings. My wife, the mayor, she attended the last 2 years worth of ADOT meetings in order to explain what the situation was. She had the support of her council members. She had the support of the planning and zoning commissioners. And so a lot of people in the community rallied and had added to their voice in order to do that. Now, Santan Valley will continue to grow, and you'll have transportation issues. You'll have a number of issues. And if you have a multitude of voices, you'll be much more successful than not having that as your advantage. So with that, my guest, I have completed my presentation, and I'll be ready to answer any questions you have. That I can answer.
I'm going to just do a little presentation, and then once we've concluded their presentation, we'll take questions. And so you have a bunch of cards that were on the chair pins. If you have questions, feel free to pass those up to Aurora here, or raise your hand, and we'll get your questions answered. So I just want to start with the story of a woman named Florence Chadwick. Florence was an elite swimmer and was known for her cross-channel swims. So she swam across the English Channel, she swam across the Catalina Channel. The English Channel, she went across, and then she went all the way back. And so she was very good at what she did. And on one of these swims, when she was about to go for the swim and beat her personal record, a fog came over the ocean, and her team said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" It's kind of hard to see. She couldn't see, her hand in front of her face, but she got in the water and she went ahead and started swimming and pushing forward towards her goal to get to the land on the other side. Now she's swimming. She's several hours in, and she's exhausted. And she tells her team, "I don't know if I can make it." And they're in a boat paddling along with her, and they're like, "Keep going. You can do it. Just keep going." So she starts to continue swimming, and she gets into the 15-hour mark and says to her team, "I can't do it. You're going to have to pull me out of the water. I'm not going to make it." So they go ahead and pull her out of the water. She gets in the boat, and they start paddling to the shore on the other side. And the fog lifts, and she realizes she was a half a mile away from the shore. And afterwards, some reporters came up to her and said, "Hey, what happened? Why didn't you make it?" And she said, "I don't want to make excuses, but if I just could have seen that land, I promise you, I could have made it." I love this story because that's where Santan Valley is right now. We are at the 15-hour mark, and we are swimming to decide our future. And are we going to make it to the shore? Now for her, she did try that swim again. And the fog came over again, and her team said, "Hey, you remember what happened last time? Maybe we should call this off and do it another day." And she said, "No, I'm going to do it." And she made that swim, and she got to the other side. And she said the reason why she made it to the other side is she visualized in her mind the whole way that land on the other side. This incorporation effort for Santan Valley, this is the furthest it's ever gotten in our history. There have been multiple attempts that have gone before us to move this thing forward. And every attempt has pushed that ball forward. And the attempts before us have all been stopped by outside interests who prevented it from being able to happen. Meaning, the Santan Valley residents never had the chance to decide for their own future what they want, what we want. And this is the first time that Incorporation has ever gotten to a vote. And so the board that I serve with, our goal when we set out on this journey was one goal, was to give Santan Valley the opportunity to decide for their own future, for our own future. I can hold my head up high, Adrian, Buchanan, everyone else on our team, because we've accomplished that goal. The residents have been able to give a choice. Democracy has moved forward. We've been able to decide our own future. There's been a lot of people that have worked on this, and we're grateful for all the other incorporation efforts. This one matters. It really does. Because this will be the first time that the residents get to decide. Either we do incorporate and we're successful, or we're not successful. And the will of the people have decided we do not want to incorporate this area. Meaning, if we don't incorporate, incorporation is dead for a long, long time. Perhaps forever. That's how much this election matters. And so, now when we came as the committee, there are some concerns that we've shared about this area that has pushed us forward to make this happen. And so these concerns, some of them are, the first one is excessive residential development with no cohesive urban plan, development plan. So we all see it. There's homes popping up everywhere. There's more and more people coming to Santan Valley. This is the largest and fastest growing area in the state. And that's not changing anytime soon. They're projecting that our area, while it's over 100,000 people now, is going to be somewhere north of 300,000. And for us, to continue to have development that's unchecked without a plan, a master plan, a general plan guiding this area is a significant problem. And so that's one of our concerns. The second concern is the loss of commercial land. And so we have seen many parts of our community that was once residential, was once commercial, has been rezoned to residential or multifamily and all that. And so we've seen those areas that are important for our area be overturned in the zoning. And so that's an area of concern for us. The next one is strain on infrastructure. We have only a couple major arteries that are ways in and out of Santan Valley, and that's Ironwood Road and Hunt Highway. Those are the big ones. And you have a lot of people driving down those roads at the exact same time, all going great distances. Many people are very angry on the road because they're frustrated. They're frustrated with the construction. They're frustrated with bad drivers. There's no bad drivers, right? We think like over 85% of people commute outside Santan Valley to work, all going at the same time. There's going to be frustration. There's accidents. And so there's a lot of strain on the infrastructure. What are we going to do to alleviate the strain on that infrastructure and provide more pathways for people to get in and out for safety's sake? And then number 4, there's no places to come together really as a community. And so that's what makes a place home, a place that you want to raise a family and have kids and have grandchildren. Is a sense of this community where you can get to know other people. If you're a mom with a kid, you want to be able to meet other moms at the local park and be able to know other people. We are people that want to be known and we want to know other people. And it's really hard in Santan Valley to get to know other people. I've met a lot of people who said they'd moved from Santan Valley because when they came here, they were expecting something else, and it was very lonely. And so what are we going to do to provide space where we can get to know our fellow neighbors, where we can gather together, where we can take care of one another? It's only when you know somebody that you can take care of them, and so and be taken care of. And so that's the beautiful part about community. Number 5, insufficient public services. The county is managing this area of 100,000 people. They cannot provide all of the services that an area of 100,000 people need. And so what public services are we going to have for this community? We want to be able to determine that. Number 6, this is what I just talked about, is the county was not set up to maintain an area of this many people. The county never expected to be managing an area that really should be a city. This is a lot of people. They already manage an area the size of Connecticut, a massive area that includes Casa Grande and Eloy and other parts, Maricopa. It's a big area that they have to manage and plan for, and there's a large population, and that's really difficult. Number 7, public safety is understaffed. We don't have enough officers per shift. I've heard 5 or 6 officers per shift for 100,000 people. We have 3 or 4 fire stations. We don't have the adequate amount that we need to be able to provide the fire that's necessary, the number of firefighters. In fact, I was actually texting with a friend recently, and I got permission to read this. He sent me this text. He says, and he works with our local fire. He says, here's a great example of the dismal state of fire service in Santan Valley. We had 2 fires around the same time here in East Mesa last week, and they had to borrow units from Santan to make it work. There were a total of 2 firefighters on 1 engine covering all of Santan Valley for several hours. Normal staffing would be 12 firefighters on 4 engines. And even that is woefully inadequate for this area. It's a recipe for disaster, and it's not the first time that this has happened. So this is a concern for us. Public safety is super important. We don't have the appropriate staffing that we need. In order to get there, we have to move Incorporation forward and to start moving these things down the field. The value. So here's some values that we think come with Incorporation. Number 1, the ability to elect our own elected officials who are more responsive to our community needs. If we incorporate, we are going to get 7 council members, 6 council members and a mayor. And those council members all have to live in Santan Valley, which means they know this area, they are invested in this area, they've got their families here, they want to see a good outcome for this area. Pinal County has done the best that they can under the circumstances that they've had. But 7 representatives who can start to make these decisions and lean in on these decisions is super important. Right now, we have 5 supervisors at the county, again, an area the size of Connecticut that they're trying to manage, who are making decisions for our area in Santan Valley. Only one of those 5 currently lives in Santan Valley. And that supervisor is getting outvoted on many issues in this area. And so, having 7 representatives is going to be more effective for our area to be able to make the decisions that we need. Number 2, more control over land use, zoning, and development. We will get to have a say in what things develop. We will be able to have those decisions and that power to be able to do that. Number 3, tax revenue dollars that are already being collected can be spent locally. We'll talk more about this here in a little bit, but there's tax money that Santan Valley residents are paying now that goes to fund other cities and places in our state, and those dollars don't necessarily come back here. We're funding other communities' roads, other communities' neighborhoods, and we want those dollars to come here. And a corporation does that. It brings that money here. Number 4, retain our community character and identity. There's a reason why we moved here. There's something about Santan Valley that we love and we like. Some of us have been invested in this area for longer than others. And there's things about this area that we have found that we enjoy. But we're not a rural community anymore. As sad as it is. It's never going to go back to that. If we want to be able to retain the thing that we love about this area, we have to incorporate, get a plan to decide the future. Otherwise, you're going to have this growth that's going to continue to come. I call it ramen development, just here, there, like everywhere. There's not a cohesive plan. And so when we incorporate, we can put a plan forward and then start to ask the question, what does it look like to retain the character of this area? What does it look like for Santan Valley to be Santan Valley? We're not trying to be Mesa, we're not trying to be Gilbert, we're not trying to be Queen Creek. What does it look like for Santan Valley to be Santan Valley? Number 5, authority over what level of services, public safety, water, transportation, etc. will best serve our community. We will be in the driver's seat. Right now, we're in the car and we're in the back seat. Someone else is driving. By us getting in the driver's seat, we can make decisions on where we want to go. Where do we want to go with our public safety? Where do we want to go with our fire? Where do we want to go with our police? Where do we want to go with our roads? What are we going to do about it? We get in the driver's seat, we get to make those decisions on what level of services that we want. Number 6, create a comprehensive urban and transportation plan to guide our community. We think this is really important to have a good transportation plan for this community. We can be able to put that in place to make sure that our roads are in the ways that the traffic should be funneled in the right ways. So those are the values. I'm going to give you a little history on our incorporation committee. We started in April 2023. STV Inc. We came together with the intention to incorporate, and we notified Pinal County of that intention. And our goal was originally to incorporate an election in November 2024. And that's the goal that we were working towards. And then after we notified that, our heart is, as the Incorporation Committee, is to be good neighbors. It's to be good neighbors to all of you. It's to be good neighbors to the cities and towns that are around us. And so the way that we approached that out the gate is we did some public outreach. So we organized 6 like town hall, open house type events. We invited the community to come and give us feedback on a map that we had created. That map was kind of the initial contextual conversation that we felt looked like Santan Valley and the areas that we felt that were interested in incorporating. And so we invited the community to say, hey, we don't want to force you guys into this. We want to give you the opportunity to speak into this. And so we wanted some members of the community to come. And so we held those. And then we started meeting with the cities and towns around us. So for every city and town that we met with the mayor, the city or town manager, and some additional staff. And we met with Queen Creek, we met with Florence, we met with Coolidge, we met with Apache Junction, we met with Gilbert, we met with Mesa, we met with Chandler, we met with Queen Creek. There's a lot of time to organize mayor schedules, city managers, and it's not something that you just do unless you're very serious about it. For us, that was very important to start having those early conversations with people and communities that would be around us. And those conversations were insightful. The next part of this that we didn't expect is the Arizona State Land Department reached out to us and asked us to remove all the state land out of our map. The state land, I'm guessing, is roughly about 30% of our map, to which we said, no, we're not going to do that. That started months of dialogue and ended up in a meeting in the city of Phoenix where we talked with the state land department, and we ended up working out a deal on some of the state land. And they went and worked with Pinal County to entitle some of the land. And so we'll show that on the map a little bit here later. And so that was a fruitful thing. But in order for us to give, so the county and the state had to work out an entitlements. And so they had a several-month public process. They had to move that forward. And so for us, we had to take a step back from the November election to give the county and the state time to get those lands entitled so that we can include them in our map. And so for us, we have never been interested in incorporating Santan Valley for the sake of incorporating Santan Valley. We want to incorporate Santan Valley by doing it the right way, and doing it in a way that sets up this community and the future leaders of this community in the best way possible. And we felt like if we would have just ignored it and moved forward, removed all that state land out of the map, then that wouldn't have been setting up the future leaders. We got over 3,200 acres that were provided in one of the parcels that is included in this map. And that land is prime for commercial development, a future possible downtown area, industrial development, that is going to be an important part of our tax base in the future. And so we gave the state and the county time to do that. They got that deal done, and we have since continued on this process, and now that's why this election is now happening in August 5th, instead of November 2024. From October, we started collecting signatures. We had a 6-month shot clock to get the number of signatures that were required to get this thing on the ballot. And we were able to secure just under 11,000, so 10,700 signatures. And we were successful in getting an election called for this issue. And then May 2nd, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors officially called the election for August 5th for us to be able to decide our future. So I talked about earlier about state shared revenue, tax money that we are paying to different places throughout the state. And so this is a chart here. The number that shocked us the most was the $10 million number from the city of Phoenix. This is a very high dollar amount. So these are the top 10 that we listed here, places in Arizona, and then there's another 18 million plus underneath that that's also included from the other cities and towns. So being shocked about this, we reached out to a former city council member, Sal DeCiccio, who's very well known about keeping government in check in the city of Phoenix and fighting against high taxes and government overreach. And we talked to him about it, and this is what he had to say. He said, as someone who has fought for transparency and fiscal responsibility in Phoenix, I can tell you this, it makes 0 sense for Santan Valley residents to send over $10 million of their tax dollars every year to a city that's miles away and doesn't represent them. That money should be building your roads, your parks, and your families, not funding the politics and priorities of Phoenix. It's time for Santan Valley to invest in itself. We couldn't agree more with Sal, and those dollars we'd like to see come here. They'll fund our community. So this map we're going to show you here, this is the boundaries. If you can't see it afterwards, we've got a couple maps here on the side of the room, or you can go to our website, santanvalleyinc.com. There's a PDF version of the map, as well as an interactive map that you can engage with, and there's actually a magnifying glass that you can actually type in your address, or any address, to kind of see if it falls in the map. So that's super helpful. So the rough boundaries of this map, on the north side is Ironwood and Pima. So if you know that cobblestone car wash shell that's up there on Ironwood or Ironwood and Pima. And then on the west side is the Queen Creek boundaries for their community. And then on the south side, you've got Johnson Ranch and then Copper Basin. And then on the east side, you've got the Central Arizona Project Canal, so Cap Canal. So that's kind of the rough boundaries of the map. The state land that we were discussing earlier, the 3,200 acres, is all of this in here. For reference, Post and Butte is right here, high school. And so this 3,200 acres is that area that we see as very great for opportunity for commercial, industrial growth for this area. The state also allowed us to include this green state land in our map. Basically, this poor neighborhood is surrounded on all sides by state land, and we're like, we should probably do something about that. So they agreed to give us that, and that also, they told us would be great for commercial use. So we see that as opportunities as well. We also have the opportunity in the future to be able to annex some of this land, and the state let us know that they are interested in working with us day one after we incorporate to look at what it would take to annex some of this land. And so there's a lot of opportunity here in this green for bringing in some of that land into our map. The one that we think is particularly important is you've got down here, you've got 4 railroads going in and out of Santan Valley, which is a prime spot for industrial development. And then on the east side, you've got some more state land here. That will be important as well. If we can get that freeway funded to come off of 24 and come around this side, you have a lot of opportunity for commercial and industrial that would want to follow that, especially with the railroad. So we think it's a great map, and so the 2020 census data is 91,000 residents, and so we expect that number is over 100,000 now. And then the proposed municipal area is 36.4 square miles. So this is the smallest map of any of the incorporation committees, and we think it's a good one, and we've done our best to set it up for success and for this community success. Now there's different revenue streams that comes from state shared revenue, and there's 4 buckets. And so those buckets are your state sales tax. So every time you purchase something, your state sales tax, that portion of that comes to the state shared revenue. Also your income tax, so it's 18% of your income tax. It also comes into that bucket. Highway user revenue fund, so you have your vehicle license tax, and then you've got your gas tax, and those are the other parts of those buckets. Those 4 buckets make up the state shared revenue. So these are dollars that we are paying now They go into the state, everybody pays into that, and then those dollars are then distributed to the cities and towns across the state. Because we're not a city or town, those dollars don't come here, they go to other cities and towns in the county.
Tyler,
Yeah.
just for clarification, there's also monies that come from the county. There's some road maintenance monies, the half-cent tax that is collected by the county is distributed across the various communities. And so that's for the purpose of maintaining their roads. And then there's also community development block grant money. So there's other monies out there that are available too.
And developer fees and stuff that are one time. So development fees that are one time.
Sure.
They go to the
Yeah,
county.
development impact fees.
Yeah,
Sure.
So those are going to the county now. We incorporate those dollars instead of coming to the municipality. And so some other town revenue that the different options that there are is property taxes. In our view, this is very unlikely for property taxes. So common concern, this is from the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. Common concern is that with incorporation, residents will see an automatic increase in their property taxes. This is not necessarily the case. Out of 16 incorporated communities between 1980 and 2010, only 2 have initiated a primary property tax and 2 have adopted a secondary property tax. And 45 of 91 cities and towns have a property tax. So a council could not pass a property tax on their own will. They could send it to the voters to be able to decide that. And so we think that's highly unlikely, especially in an area like San Diego Valley. Property taxes are rightfully unpopular. I personally would vote against any property tax. If it came to the ballot, that's where my vote would go. And so we view this as unlikely with property tax. Next part of town revenue could be a sales tax. And a council could pass a sales tax somewhere between the range of 1% and 3% that would go on top of your goods. So when you purchase something at Fry's or wherever, that 1 to 3% could be applied. Our argument for that is you're already paying it when you have to go to Queen Creek or other areas for your groceries and your restaurants, and because we don't have a whole lot of that here. And so when you go, you have to go pay that anyways. But that's going to fund Queen Creek and other cities that you go to. It's funding their roads and their neighborhoods. Queen Creek gets a lot of sales tax revenue from San Diego Valley residents. It's a big portion of that. We'd like to see more commercial development here and start shopping here and have that come to the municipality in the future. Other options are business and occupational license taxes.